Welcome to the Hypervoice, episode 53. This is a show all about Pokemon's video game championship series. I am your host, Steven Morioka, and today I am joined by Alex Underhill.
Hello.
And Jake White.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
No, thank you.
Of course, welcome everyone to the show. We're going to talk about more Pokemon things, of course. That is what our show focuses on. Now, I just wanted to do a quick roundabout of updates.
Steven, before you get too far, I wanted to take back my thank you to Jake.
Okay, I'll take mine back too.
Yeah, I'm saving it for later, because what if it's a really bad episode? I don't want to thank him for a really bad episode.
You're right.
So I'm gonna wait till the end, okay?
Yeah, whatever. So, welcome everyone. We're gonna head into our updates from last time. So, last time we did just do like a regional roundup of things that happened. So we're gonna be covering just some quick updates from our last episode, some corrections rather. So, and then we're going to talk about some questions, and then we're going to talk about the damage calculator, which Jake plays a pretty significant role in.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. Now, last week we had the 2020 season regional schedule released, and the day after we recorded that regional schedule episode, another update came to the list in the form of the Daytona Beach, Florida regional, which is in the Orlando area. That's like an hour and a half northeast of Orlando by automobile. And that's going to be on the dates from November 30th to December 2nd, 2019. So, Alex, we have an update there for another regional. And, I don't know. What do you think of that?
Unfortunately, this news did come one day late, so we didn't feel like recording a third episode for the week that would just consist of us talking about Florida. But anyway,
it would have been short, though.
It would have been just a little 5 minutes, like, hey guys, Florida, bye. But the date, I think, is the most interesting thing for me. It's a lot of people were crying out for a Florida regional. They're like, wow, it's gone. I'm so sad. Especially, I remember over on Soundproof. Wow, I'm shouting them out again. But Soundproof, I listened to theirs and they were saying, like, really sad to see Florida go, but sadness no more because it is back. The thing that interests me most, though, is that date, because it is November 30th to December 2nd, which is the weekend that December happens. And looking at past years, December has been when, after the new games came out in Sun and Moon, December 1st was when the format change happened, and that could be really interesting.
Yeah. It's like right after Sword and Shield comes out, right?
Yes, this will be 2 weekends afterwards.
Yeah, so it makes for interesting prospect for the format change. I mean, like, it's weird because the first and second are Sunday, Monday. So I wonder if the dates are just, like, aligned incorrectly, perhaps. And, like, if the format does switch on Sunday, December 1st, like we were kind of predicting, that's still okay. Like, you just have that regional end on the last Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon thing, if that ends up happening. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know.
That is interesting. You know what's funny is I brought up the dates because of where they lied with reference to the months, but you're right, this does go Saturday to Monday, which is extra weird, but I'm sure that's just some kind of error. Yeah,
that has to be an error. I've never heard of that.
I mean, yeah, it was a pretty quick update, like the day after, so they were probably rushing things, and that's okay. It's either going to be like a Friday to Sunday thing or Saturday, Sunday, like normal. But, Jake, just in general, like, what were your overall impressions from the original schedule from that was announced recently?
I only glanced at it, but I saw Fort Wayne is a thing now.
Get back. So, that's especially good for you.
Yeah, I live like an hour and a half from it, so my closest regional otherwise is going to be like Knoxville or whatever.
Not Madison?
No, Madison's like 5-6 hours, I think.
Oh, okay.
Tennessee's closer for us.
Gotcha.
So Fort Wayne isn't like the best regional. It's not like my favorite regional, but it's like really convenient.
I really like it.
I'm sure you do.
Specific reason in particular.
Yeah, I actually like the Fort Wayne regional too a lot. Because of location.
It's good for us.
Madison for I guess Madison, it's good for us, like, location-wise,
Yeah.
travel-wise. Like, Madison for us is also, like, the hour and a half drive from most of the Chicago area. So, cool, yeah, so you did find, like, the local one you're going to, and there's a good sprinkle of all kinds of different regionals in different places, so we'll see where everybody ends up going. Speaking
wait,
of
Steven.
other regionals, another update I wanted to make is that that we had the Albany, New York regional announced for the 2020 season in May. It was like one of the early weekends in May, but I'd mentioned how I couldn't remember the most like recent New York major event that happened in the New York State. When I said it was like the 2006 Journey Across America National Tournament, but and maybe like nobody was able to like figure this out or pinpoint this out because everybody's so relatively new. But there was the 2008 New York City Regional Qualifier, which fed you straight into Worlds for the 2008 event. Wasn't even really a season. It was just a qualifier event that fed you straight into the World Championships, back then known as the Video Game Showdown.
Okay. So back when Showdown was a different thing.
Yeah, I don't even know, was Pokemon Showdown, did it even exist yet in 2008? Or was it Pokemon Online or even NetBattle?
I don't think it existed.
Did we even have PO? I mean, I started with PO in like 2010, so I can't confirm if it was there earlier. And there's no way to find this information out besides our three brains.
Yeah.
So
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
I mean, yeah, maybe someone else can corroborate or answer some of this information for us. But otherwise, yeah, I just wanted to give an update on that. Other than that, I am otherwise confident on this new, most recent update, I think. So
wait, Steven, there's one more update I wanted to slip in here that we kind of forgot to mention, and that's because you're not the most hip on the social media kind of guy.
True.
So you probably did. Do you even know about what happened to Rayquaza?
I think I did see this, but you can go ahead and announce this.
Yeah, so for like how long? 45 minutes? Maybe
45 minutes, yeah. An hour.
An hour. Mega Rayquaza was essentially banned because of a error on the UK version of the VGC rules, where it said that Dragon Descent will be no longer allowed in competitive play or something like that. So they quickly corrected this, and it wasn't present in the US rules, and we're not accustomed to any kind of rule changes in mid-season. So it was just a little error, a little blunder that a lot of people made jokes and goofs about, but that was just kind of funny, something that happened during the last week. Not too much to say on it.
Yeah. Throwback to when it happened with Zygarde.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember this one. Can you bring me back up to speed on this, Jake?
This was, I believe, when the 2017 format was first given a rule set. When they actually published the rule set for it, and it was like, I feel like it wasn't even like a day. It was like an hour maybe again. Where Zygarde was just, it was like, it listed out Pokemon Dex numbers.
Yeah.
And Zygarde was just casually included in it.
Okay.
That's pretty funny. I mean, like, there's so many bigger announcements happening within these time windows that, you know, something small like that tends to slip through the cracks, and, you know, it's pretty fast to correct, so, you know, not that biggest of deals, but, you know, nice little gaff of them.
In 2017, I feel like there was also some other error where they said, like, your Pokemon must be a level 50. I just remember thinking, like, Braviary might not be legal for play. I don't remember if this was related to the Zygarde issue, if this was related to being a level 50 kind of issue. I don't remember, but for some reason, I thought Braviary wasn't allowed. I could be just totally insane. But if anybody remembers what I'm talking about, Braviary, I remember there's something about Braviary.
I think it was just that you had to have your Pokemon at level 50 in their battle box beforehand, or something like that. I don't remember.
So kind of a throwback to, I don't know if you listened to it, but I think it was an episode or two ago, Steven and I were talking about how in the past, remember, Steven, you were talking about your Zapdos, I think it was, how when you were EV training and you caught a Zapdos at level 50, you couldn't EV train it too much or it might level up to 51 and no longer be legal in competitive play back in the day.
Yes, correct, for the 2009.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of remember that point. I kind of remember that point in 2017 where, like, some Pokemon, you know, they just made again corrections to that because of the whole new auto leveling feature, regardless of what level you were at all. So, cool. I think it's let's move into our questions here. So this first one comes from our email, And this is from Chance N, who says, "Hey guys, loving the podcast. I played Pokemon since I was a kid and competitively battled friends, but never took part in VGC. I was looking to get involved next season, but wanted to know what is the financial investment needed to stay competitive in the circuit. Thanks for reading, Chance." So, this is a really good question. I'm sure a lot of people, kind of want to gauge what the general financial investment is. Essentially how much does it cost to remain competitive in the Pokemon circuit, especially for the VGC side of things.
So before we dive in, Steven, we got to establish what is stay competitive in the circuit, because while I get what they're going for, but it's kind of vague. So I'm gonna I'm gonna say my thoughts. And I'm gonna see what if you guys agree or not. Which is, I think staying competitive is vying for a Worlds invite.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially if you're new. I wouldn't say vying for day 2 if you're just starting to get into it or something.
Because I mean, if you're going for a step less than staying competitive, what else are you going for? Just trying to do well? I mean, if you're just trying to do well, then it's just, hey, you can pay $40 or $60 to go to one regional. It's not really.
Yeah, even doing well isn't very clear. It's pretty ambiguous. But I'd agree with you there. Staying competitive is trying to get a Worlds invite, going just for day 1, trying to reach that first threshold there. Day 2 is a whole different animal, and I think the financial burden at that point is going to be pretty high.
Yeah.
And time suck. You lose a lot of weekends.
Yeah, that too. I think we're all on the same page here then.
So hopefully that's what you're looking for, Chance, but we're going to establish as what we think, at least from our experience, what we think is needed to get a Worlds invite in terms of money. So to start, we could break down some prices, which for the most part are consistent across the board. It's going to depend on your local scene and what events you travel to. But I wanted to first start with talking about entry fees. I'm not talking about travel costs or anything yet, where we're looking at flights, hotel, or just gas for filling up your car or something, or paying for a bus or train. But entry fees.
I think this is a good start, because this is an important part of the game, important part of the game currently, and likely going to stay. So it's good to factor all this in. Yeah.
So to start, PCs are generally $5 to $10. Does that sound right?
Yeah. If they're part of a regional, then they would be 20 sometimes.
Yes, that's true. That is true. When events are tied to regionals, sometimes they have higher buy-ins where an entry fee. Sometimes they give out more prizes, and then sometimes you have elevated level events that are outliers too. Not to get too sidetracked, but in the past there have been mid-seasons where you could win a 3DS or win a Switch, and they have maybe higher entry fees because of this. So just looking at our general case locals, I think PCs fit in the 5 to 10 range, and then mid-seasons in the 15 to 20 range, but I usually see 15. I mean, maybe 10 to 20. I don't know what, again, this is from my experience, so it's going to vary depending on where you play your events.
Yeah, I feel I typically see either 10 or 20 for mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree with that range. I guess another thing to also quickly consider for these tournaments is, how many are we considering everyone, or that you're participating in? Just enough to, the minimum for these at least to complete your BFL?
Why don't we just say you, we'll go with that, and
because these are the locals.
Yeah, we'll count enough to fill your BFL, and even if you don't have, even if you're not filling that BFL, just say you went to 2 mid-seasons, got points at 1, but maybe you just didn't have the chance to try for another. So we'll just, we'll stop it. We'll, stop it there. And PCs and mid-seasons right now in the current circuit are 2 per series, 2 per rule set, essentially this time around, which makes things easy to track. So, at least I think so, right? It was 2 per rule set? Or was it 2 per... Yeah, no, it was 2 per rule set. It was just different if you were going for day 2. You could squeeze a couple more in there for, stipend reasons, but it wouldn't get you any closer to a day 1 Worlds invite. So, sidetracking aside, that would be, if we were gonna just like go on the high end of everything, 10 for the Premier Challenges times 2 per series times 3, you're looking at $60 already just for Premier Challenges. If we put mid-seasons at 20, and, multiply that for 2 per series times 3, we're looking at about 120 for mid-seasons. So added that together, you're looking at about 180 for locals, and I haven't even broken it down by travel or anything like that. So time spent going there and gas spent driving or what have you. So moving up a tier towards the regional level, these are the events that obviously there are a lot less of. There are a lot more locals throughout the year, and regionals we had, I think, about 15 in the past year, something like that. Maybe less, 12, I don't know. However, these vary more in cost. Usually 60. They can go as low as 40 depending on your TO. But I want to count them as 60, just again kind of going for these worst case scenarios, because I don't want to tell anybody anything significantly less than what they might be expecting.
I mean, like, 60's probably like also an accurate number, but would you want to like average to 50? Because I know some of them have also been a little bit lower too.
We could. Or do
you want to stay at like 55, 60?
I'm going with 60 just to keep with these worst case scenarios, basically.
Okay, fair enough.
So that way, and then it also gives a little bit of leeway for anything else that, because we haven't been counting travel at all, so, and I don't feel like we can reasonably do that because everybody's situation is different, but I mean, flights are a bit tough. We can estimate. We're probably not going to do too much hardcore math on that. Anyway, the number of regionals I think to stay competitive is 3 to 4. Just throwing it out there because I'm basing this number off of, years past, where like 2014, 2015, when we had the cycle of regionals, 3 times a year. And now this year we have 3 series, 1 regional per series, getting an experience in each format, as well as just, spreading them out across the year and looking at regions, especially, again, speaking from my own perspective, one of my most common, basically my like go-to would be going to Fort Wayne in the fall, Collinsville in the spring, and then Madison in the summer, basically, end of the season. And that was my 3 for the year, usually. And then anything else beyond that was kind of going out of region. So, I don't know, should we count regionals as 3 or 4, guys?
I don't know. It's always been the same 3 for me, usually, that I consider. Although I don't think I would say I'm trying to stay competitive, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, you have taken it a little bit more lax, so that's fair.
I would say, like, I guess 3 is fair. I would probably say, like, 4 is probably closer to an average of what more people tend to attend and play in, but I'm okay with keeping it at 3.
All right, we'll go with 3 for now. Again, if we wanted to continue with the worst case, we could go with 4, but let's stick with 3 for now.
So that's 3 with a entry fee of what do we end up going with?
$60. So again, $180. So just doubling the cost now from $180 to $360. And we have yet to talk Nats, but I mean, Nats is really just the price of one more regional because most players, the large majority will not be attending multiple internationals unless you're vying for day 2, or if you just, I guess if you ended up in some kind of study abroad situation or things were convenient. But no, most players will be expecting to go to just one international, the one in their local region. And for Americans, we're very privileged in being easy. It's easy for us to travel to. But for other regions, you might have to travel to another country or what have you, traveling across the continent, which I guess that still refers to America. So travel for that will be a lot. But the entry fee is just going to be only around $60, just like a regional. Which bumps things up to the lovely number of 420.
Yeah, $420 just on entry fees so far. Now, okay, decent start, right? Now, I kind of want to also just like exclude the cost of food in general because you got to eat every day, so that's just like a daily thing you consider.
Yeah,
So I
and
wouldn't factor this into staying
exactly.
competitive.
You don't need to count food too much because it just depends on what you're comfortable with. If you're driving to an event, you can pack snacks, whatever. Like Steven said, you always got to eat.
Now, like, in terms of like gas money or air travel and hotels, or
Yes.
hotels or like wherever you're staying, I feel like we could do like a little bit of figure out some of the numbers here.
Yeah. Well, go for it, Steven. What are you thinking we're looking at?
So, for most of your locals, I imagine you're not really staying anywhere. You're just like going to and from the event that same day or night. So it doesn't really factor in there. Maybe just like a gas, price of gas, a gas tank. What would that come out to? Probably like maybe $40.
It depends on how far you're driving to a local.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
worst
too.
case, I would say about $20 for gas, if anything. And then also worth mentioning is that a lot of locals, Jake, especially your region, I've come out there for a couple of them, where they host double mid-season weekends or just double event weekends where they host as many events as possible over the Saturday and Sunday, where it's like a mid-season and a PC Saturday, a mid-season and a PC Sunday. I have gotten a hotel for this, I will admit, but I don't know how typical that is. I mean, it just depends. If you're if you don't have a great local scene, maybe this is your best chance to get locals and you just get them all in on one weekend.
Yeah, those are the best bang for your buck, really, if you have the chance to go to one.
It's very cool that TOs run these because they have to run them in conjunction with other TOs, so it's really cool that they kind of organize this all for the players.
Yeah, can sometimes be grueling to play in, but it's very nice. Now, in terms of like price for gas, do we want to like come up with a number here, or just say like in our final number we have this amount plus gas plus whatever else we are going to consider later?
We could probably just say plus gas because
It's
going to be very hard to estimate based on region.
It depends on your car, too.
Depends on your car, depends on the price of gas in your region, depends on how far you're driving.
Yeah, and mileage and everything. Okay.
And other countries have better access to public transport.
Oh, yeah. If you're in Europe, your gas isn't really even a thing you need to think about. You have different prices to think about and all that.
Yeah. So transport, like...
Yeah, no, so...
Yeah.
I guess for the regionals at least, those I imagine your average player is going to be traveling out of area, so they're going to need someplace to stay. Now, you got hotel prices. There's also the Airbnb option where you're staying with a bunch of friends. Hotels in general, I would assume, you're getting there Friday night, so you'll be staying for Friday night, most likely Saturday night as well, and then Sunday night's questionable, depends on the person, whether you're leaving that night or you're flying out that following Monday.
Yeah.
Or leaving that following Monday. I don't know.
I agree. So for this, I know I wanted to go on the hard end on entry fees. However, for hotels, I almost want to go on the soft end because while entry fees are not in your control, hotels very much are. And I think that it's fair to say, some people are going to have different hotel preferences, but if you're just looking to save money, you can get a hotel for usually $50. Well, it just depends on if you're staying with other people. It's probably about $80 to $100 per night for the 2 nights, but if you're staying with 4 people, it averages to about $50, which is something that I am commonly known to do. I'm a pretty cheap hotel boy.
Staying at those good Super 8s.
Yeah, me and Jacob stayed at a lot of Super 8s.
Okay, so let's just assume like you're a player who's going to be splitting hotel costs with a group of friends, right? I'm going to say 4 because in most hotels that's like the technical legal limit. You're supposed to have like a 2 queen bed room or something.
Yeah.
But so let's say 4 friends, $80 per night. And do you want to go like 3 nights just to be safe?
Look at Steven with his like double queen bed situation. I thought we were just looking at 2 doubles, huh?
Oh,
2
sorry.
fulls.
Anyway,
Bunk
do you want to go with 2 nights or 3 nights?
Let's go with 2.
Yeah,
okay.
For original, yeah.
Yeah, 2 nights. So that comes to $160 total, divided by 4, so $40 per person.
Yeah, and so 40 per person, and then you multiply this by just about every regional, so multiply that by 3, and you're looking at about 120 spent on hotels at regionals per year.
Yeah, that's like a general estimate or average.
That's a pretty low end, but yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I suppose we can be a little generous here. And then for the international, just same thing.
Yeah, we could say that for internationals as well. So I guess just add another one up to 160. Although, no, the thing is, you got to add in an extra night.
Oh, for the international, yes.
So they oftentimes you need an extra one for whether it's you're traveling very far to an international or because they have check-in on the day before. So oftentimes you check in on like Thursday.
Put in for the international. Put in an extra 60 for that extra hotel night.
Yeah. So then instead it would bump it up to 180 total for hotels.
Correct.
And then yeah, that's about it for hotels for the years is 180, which bumps us up to around 600, I believe, on top of our 420 from earlier.
As of right now. Now, one thing I do also want to factor in here is essentially every season you do have to buy a new game. We can debate on buying the new system, but the new game, I feel like we should add that in.
I disagree.
You disagree? All right, why?
So yeah, if you want to play, it depends on what you get out of Pokemon. There are players who exclusively enjoy VGC, but I think it's unfair to count your system and also the game as costs for VGC because they're so multifaceted, multifunctional. You know, a lot of players will just have the game because they buy it to play through the game, not casually. For fun. Like that's the thing for me. Even if I stop playing VGC, I'll likely still buy the Pokemon games just to play through them at least once for fun. That's just I don't know. I feel like just generally if you're a Pokemon fan, you're buying the game.
Yeah, I can't see myself not buying a Pokemon game. And this person did say that they were playing since they were a kid. So I imagine that for most people looking at this question.
Okay. All right, okay. I'll give you this one. Yeah. We're under the assumption that these players are already, fans of Pokemon. They already have the game. And the question is essentially, are they going to be willing to make the jump to competitive play? And what would be the cost from that point?
I don't think we're getting too many people on the streets interested in playing VGC when they don't own a 3DS or the Pokemon games. We are trying to pull
or a
in
Switch soon.
Or the Switch, yeah. We're trying to pull from the large fan base of Pokemon fans already.
Yeah, people who would probably be invested. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Are we missing anything else? How about do we want to consider air travel?
We do. We do want to consider air travel because
So, yeah, also depends on your region and regionals which ones you're going to, because some people need to fly a lot, some others don't.
Yeah, that's the thing is when I talked about my personal typical season where I go to Madison, Collinsville, and Fort Wayne, that's a year where I don't step foot in a plane. In the past couple of seasons, I have stepped foot in a plane. Also, sometimes you can't really avoid the plane, even if you're just going to your local regionals because of internationals, especially for most of the country, when the 2 worlds in a row that were in California, you had to fly there unless you were on the West Coast. So I think it's pretty safe to say that you're going to be flying.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're aiming for Worlds, you're going to have to step foot in a plane. So, pretty much almost guaranteed.
Something else to mention is that we kind of ignored Worlds in general.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But we'll continue to ignore Worlds because the goal is to make Worlds and stay competitive in the circuit. And if you don't stay competitive, then I guess you're not going to Worlds. I don't know. I think we'll just, because we've come this far, we'll just continue to ignore Worlds, but a lot of the same costs apply. No entry fee to be considered, but 3-day hotel kind of like internationals, and often going to need some kind of large travel, whether it's flight or a very long road trip.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I know all 3 of us have had the fortune so far, and we're all from the Midwest here, so, and all of it in North America, all the nationals and internationals have been relatively close to us, whether they've been St. Louis, Indianapolis, or Columbus, so we're all fortunate there, while a good majority of the other players do probably have to fly into that what would you say, our flight, how many flights, do we want to say, 2 flights per season, maybe? And
yeah, I think 2 sounds fair,
Yeah,
1 to nationals, likely, and then maybe 1 to a regional, so it's 1 to 2.
Okay, yeah, let's go with 2, in, I want to say, $180.
You could just
That
do
sound
a
high or
round.
low?
Just do around 200 for each flight.
Yeah, I'd say
Or
200
no.
for each flight.
Yeah, 200 for each.
Okay. Yeah, let's go with that.
And that brings us up to a nice, pretty number. $1,000.
Huh. That seems awfully low to me. That doesn't check out. However, this also like factors in gas money, like we mentioned earlier. So $1,000 in general to stay competitive in the circuit, plus gas, plus other miscellaneous things almost as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, this. I guess this would be like a general average. If you're going for Worlds, but I don't know. How do you two feel about the estimate so far?
I still think that you're gonna sometimes pay more for hotels, depending on where you're staying, and especially for like bigger events.
Yeah.
But like, especially like Nats and World seems to be, it's harder to find a hotel, and they're usually pricier. I don't know.
And a lot of these, I know we're just talking about purely staying competitive, and if you are just a, Pokemon playing machine who gets no enjoyment out of anything else, you will spend close to the amount of money that we talked about. But there are things like, going out for dessert in a fun, different location you've been to, checking out tourist locations, and spending money on just having fun in places, going out to, barcades or karaoke stuff and whatever, just having fun at events, because a lot of these events will be in places that are not your hometown, places that you are visiting for the first time ever, and you're going to want to have, fun experiencing the city and culture there. So, again, this doesn't really factor into the competitive part of the circuit, but you will be spending money on other things besides Pokemon.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, like $1,000 seems like just based on our quick estimate and calculations here, that's what we ended up coming up with, plus gas, plus World's money, plus whatever else you spend on. So probably like in a range somewhere of 1,000 to 1,500.
I was gonna go ahead and just bump it up to 1,500 and just say like I sound happy with that number. I sound happy with saying 1,500.
That does sound like a better average to me.
Yeah, most likely just for like this is like considering your average player, and then you factor in trying to go for day 2, or maybe you play in even more tournaments than what we've been considering as the average. You could see that easily going up another $2,000.
I would say much more. Like if you look at
wow, much more. Okay.
Yeah, seriously. Like if you look at my 18 season where I was traveling all over the world. I mean, I spent about 1,000 to go to Brazil, about 1,000 to go to Australia. Now, obviously, this was paid for by Pokemon in return for the travel awards that I was earning, but yeah, I don't know how you factor in prize money into all this. Your local or your average, Worlds aiming Joe Schmo player might not win any prize money in a season, but still is able to earn a Worlds invite. So I didn't want to factor in prize money at all, but that is something that can cut back on costs. If you have one breakout event and you earn $500, that does pay for the whole trip and more.
Yeah, at that point, it's just a bonus and gravy to help offset some of the costs here. But, yeah. So, yeah, probably much higher than that, I guess, of what I suggested. But I guess ultimately, Chance, and for all the listeners out there, our general estimate here has come out to approximately $1,500, plus or minus whatever that amount's going to be. But that's about it for the general financial investment to stay competitive in the circuit. And now, again, this is for the video game side of things. I'm sure the trading card game is going to be even more expensive because you got to be buying cards and loads of cards and packs throughout the season, too. Whereas we just get to buy our game once and we're set.
And the games are multifunctional. That's why I never wanted to count the games. But if we're counting TCG, of course I am counting those cards. They are pretty, but they are, expensive.
Yeah, very nice. So, that's I guess that's a solution we came up with for this question. Now, we've got another one, and let's go ahead and move over into this next question here. This comes from Professor Sycamore, who also goes by Dylan. This is from Twitter at Fumbles O'Brien, who asks us, I have a question for you guys. I recently transitioned to the VGC from the TCG after a pretty big move.
Would you look at that?
I'm happy to hear that. Well, I found out that my new area doesn't have any locals for VGC. do you have any advice for playing competitively with this situation? I really like VGC so far, but I feel like it's going to be harder to chase CP next season without having local events. So, this, not gonna lie, this is kind of a tricky situation. What would you recommend to Dylan here?
So, oftentimes in situations like this, people would give you cheesy advice like, be the change you want to see in this situation. But unfortunately, that won't work for Dylan because he can't host his own tournaments and get points from them. So, looking at this situation, something that we mentioned earlier was the idea of the local event weekend. And if Dylan's willing to travel out, he could look in his region and see if there's anything within a couple of hours where he could get a hotel and, stay somewhere for a week and treat it almost like a regional, and just get in 2 mid-seasons, 2 PCs, and hopefully that's good enough for their season. Otherwise, maybe plan on going on to an extra regional than you might have planned, especially, after looking at our cost. All the money that you're saving by not going to locals will really add up, and then you'll be able to maybe afford another regional.
Yeah, we used to have this problem in my region like a few years ago. Indiana used to have like actually zero local TOs. Now we have like a couple, so it's not as bad as it used to be, but I feel you.
Well, what would you suggest?
Honestly, I never traveled for locals, but if you need to get local in your BFL, I would suggest just trying to hit up those ones that are attached to regionals. Find which regionals have those that are in your area.
It seems almost everyone does. Almost every regional has some kind of mid-season on the next day. So whether either you make it into top cut and you're earning lots of championship points there, or maybe you miss out on the first day, don't get any points, but you have a mid-season that you can still attend.
And what I like about those is that when you end up not doing what you like in the tournament and you end up doing poorly, like myself, you get to play more Pokemon, if you want to.
Yeah, it gives you that opportunity, make tweaks to your team, try out the secondary team that you wanted to, maybe give a shot, or just play against some more strong players that just might have barely missed out like yourself.
Yeah, so Jake, this is kind of coincidental that you have kind of been in this situation before with not having too many locals around you. So what was like the emphasis for some of the larger tournaments like regionals around you? Like, was there just something you needed to focus on more for those tournaments? Kind of like maybe what Dylan might be looking for here? Is this something you think that might have to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I was never really super aiming for Worlds when I played, but I would say regionals are probably what you need to be focusing on if you don't have any locals. It used to be for me that I think the only locals were in Ohio, basically. So you would have to book a hotel and all that, which just adds to your cost.
So yeah, Dylan, the short answer is just start practicing up and focus a lot on those big events. Don't forget that you can play in the online competitions. Those are another way that you can earn championship points from your home even. And just try to strike it big at the events that you're able to make it to.
Just being in an area without locals, it is going to be hard. Not going to lie. I can't really say I've really lived in an area like this before. We're pretty fortunate in Chicago here for Alex and myself. I remember back when I was in college, but this was before we had any a competitive Pokemon scene at all. This would have been like in the very early years of VGC when we didn't even have a full year season yet. We only ran from May to August. So, back when I was in Colorado in school, I didn't have to deal with this, but I feel for a lot of these players. So ultimately, I feel like you just got to take advantage of the big regional weekends, and in the meantime, you do get to at least have a lot more breaks in between, so you can refresh, rebuild your teams, work with others, and be able to just practice and refine your game over that time. Whereas a lot of other people may be going to tournaments every other weekend or every weekend in some cases.
Yeah, I think a lot of the difficulty that comes from being in like a local desert like that is actually not really from CP that you're losing, but more from just the practice that you're losing, because you now only have 4 or 5 maybe events that you go to every year, and it makes it a lot harder to practice.
So hit up your friends, make sure that you're getting a lot of best of 3 practice in, maybe do some on cart if that means anything to you. It really shouldn't, because that's just my opinion, but I know Steven is much more of an advocate for on-cart practice, so if that's your thing, then do go for it. You reach out to friends, add some friend codes, and honestly, one of your greatest tools is going to be Pokemon Showdown, because you'll be able to practice a lot there, reach out to friends, figure out players that you can do practice sets with, and just refine your team to be the best it can be for when you make it to those events that you need to make count.
Probably another thing we didn't mention here that could also be a struggle is just like, a lot of these relationships you build with friends are going to probably be built online, whereas people with other local scenes kind of get to see each other more in person and get to hang out, and there's something you may be missing out on. So, I feel for you there. That is an unfortunate side effect that I feel like is just going to be a reality, but you just got to make the best of what you have here. And if you're really invested in this competitive Pokemon scene, you're going to have to adjust to where you are, essentially. So everything like Jake and Alex have suggested as well. Now, hopefully that was a satisfactory answer to both Chance and Dylan here for these questions. These are pretty, I think, important topics here to talk about, because, generally we don't typically think about this. Both Alex and I and Jake have been pretty invested in the competitive Pokemon scenes for a while, and let's just move on to our next things here, because it's sometimes hard to get these different perspectives, and it's thank you both so much for asking these questions for the show, because sometimes we do struggle with coming up with topics, and otherwise these are things I don't think we necessarily may have come up with by ourselves. So we'd love to hear from more of you out there. Feel free to send us your questions to our various places, which we'll mention later on. But lastly, let's transition to our last topic here for the show, and that is the damage calculator. Now,
oh boy.
What about it? What's so special about it?
I don't know, Alex. It's pretty important in competitive Pokemon. What is it? So, Jake, you've played a pretty integral role in this. You want to go ahead and answer Alex's question there?
What is it? Yeah. It is a tool, a web tool that I have been working on, and it's actually it's a lot bigger than me. It has been worked on for years before me, and I'm sure it'll be worked on for years after me, but it's a tool that basically allows you to pit 2 Pokemon against each other, and it uses the formula that is present in the games to show you how much damage a move is going to do, and you can customize, the field and the stats, the EVs, the IVs, the abilities, everything. So it really gives you some way to build spreads and teams without just guessing at stuff. It's pretty useful. I think it's pretty widely used. So like if you're looking to get into creating your own teams, this is a good tool to look at, I'd say.
So when did you first start on the damage calc? Because I know that it was present before you got your hands on it, but you, I believe, have only you tried to make it more VGC friendly. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. So it was probably 2015. It used to be, before I took it over, it was the Nugget Bridge calculator. So it was a I wouldn't say recreation, but like modification of the Showdown version of it, which Honko and Zero and all of them created like sometime a long time ago, or around the creation of Pokemon Showdown. So it was its own standalone tool from Showdown. So then Firestorm and Tappin created this like Nugget Bridgeified look, added a bunch of VGC spreads and stuff around 2014 or 2015. And then after that's when I started working on it. So they hadn't updated it. It was like it was like the 2016 season was starting, and it was like pre-2015 state. No one had really touched it. So I kind of just was like, I really want this, and I can't really use this very well for myself. So I took it upon myself to make it so that I could use it, really. I didn't really intend to share it, but here we are, like, several years later, and I'm still working on it, so.
I think I remember this, that you, I remember this story that you, like, basically worked on it your own, and then, like, people were like, hey, can you share it, can you share it, can you share it?
Yeah.
And just, like, saying, please post it, and eventually you did.
Yeah, so eventually Firestorm and I kind of worked together to put it on Nugget Bridge, and it was the Nugget Bridge calculator for a while until, that died. And now it's the Trainer Tower calculator.
Yeah, so it just transitioned to the next hub website, but yeah, what it's become pretty mainstream. It's in like almost every resource thread that you can find for competitive Pokemon now. It's pretty big. Now, I remember like before this existed, I remember like having to do damage calculations on like there's this old like macro XLXSX file or whatever it is. Like it was all done in Excel, which is kind of crazy. So that's the road I remember having to do damage calcs on. But what's been your like general opinion on how mainstream it's become and the impact it's had on the game in these recent years?
Yeah, it's kind of become bigger than I really have the time to put towards it now. But it's definitely used by pretty much everyone that plays this game and wants to be serious about it. I have not had as much time to put towards it the last probably about a year as I used to, but I don't know. I'm sure that if I didn't work on it, someone would eventually pick it up. And DeWobblefett is honestly doing more work than I am nowadays on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to him because he's picking up the slack right now. But yeah.
Now, I have two kind of questions. One, has anybody ever like come up to you in an event or like recognized your name for being the person behind the calculator?
Yes.
Gotten a bit of recognition for it?
Pretty much every event, I'll have at least a couple of like opponents that are like, "Oh, you're Squirrel Boy from the damage calculator," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So that's like, no, I haven't done anything in a tournament, but yeah, I make the damage calculator. It's kind of a weird thing to be recognized for.
That's pretty fun, though. I'm sure that you've had some cool,
that's pretty notable
interactions from that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, you've had a large impact on not really the like metagame, but just the game as a whole. Which is something really cool to just know about yourself. And then the other thing is, do you have any favorite memories from working with the calculator, or least favorite memories from working the calculator? Things that were like impossible to make work, or like things that were just really fun, I guess.
Oh man, I think even to this day, Parental Bond is still messed up.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, this thing has some real spaghetti code in it. No offense to anyone that's worked on it, because I've contributed some of it, but the Parental Bond code is really funky, and I think there's still an issue on the GitHub to this day that it's like the calculations are not exact, or like not 100% exact, and there's so many like modifiers in this game that it's extremely common for there to be discrepancies between my calculator, Showdown's calculator, the Bulbapedia page, just everything on like, does this boost 33%? Does it boost 30%? Does it boost like 32.99%? Like, there's just so many things about this calculator that most people have no idea that they even exist, but have gone back and forth between being slightly off.
So was that was probably a least favorite thing about the calculator is just how complicated Pokemon is as a game, as a whole, really.
Yeah, the battle system of Pokemon is just so insanely complicated that there are a lot of edge cases, and this calculator definitely covers like part of them, and then misses like just so many of them. It's actually kind of wild. I don't know how Game Freak keeps all this stuff organized, because it's a mess sometimes. But
yeah, I can't imagine what their code looks like.
I would say
they also have the master files, though.
Yes,
they do.
What were you saying though? Your favorite part?
I don't know what my favorite part would be. Honestly, it's usually getting recognized.
They're getting recognized? I thought so. Okay.
And talking to people at events that appreciate my work, because I just had a lot of people come up to me about just how thankful they are, and I really do appreciate it when people do that. It's kind of nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's
I mean, I think it's totally been worth it.
It's cool. It is cool. I mean, like you said, to have an impact on the game and people's, like, I don't know, quality of life, rather than have an impact on a metagame or something. I think it's something that is kind of unique.
It's totally,
I appreciate having the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, so, like, it's nice, Jake, it's been super nice that you've been part of this team that has helped develop the damage calculator, making it be more mainstream for VGC on that side of things. Like you were just being asked here, a few questions. So, I guess when it comes to feedback about the calculator, what are some of your, like, pet peeves about that, about the way some people, I guess, approach you online about it? Maybe like...
Oh, man. Let's just say, if I were to rank ways to critique the damage calculator on a 0 to 10 ranking, DMing me, I paid money for this, please fix it, is like a 0.
What if I @ you on Twitter, like, publicly? Is that okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's how most of them work. So, like, I mean, it's fine. If you really want to be awesome, filing a GitHub request is amazing, because I can actually find those later when I go to work on this thing. It's really hard to find Twitter mentions like 2 months after the fact.
Yeah. I mean, there is literally something on the damage calc itself, a link. Submit your bug features here.
That is correct.
Right here. Just please get it.
I wish I had more time to work on this thing. Unfortunately, I have like a job and a full-time grad school to deal with right now.
I mean, I would say that's a fortunate thing rather than unfortunate, but I guess relative to Pokemon, I understand.
Yeah.
So now the big question that I think everybody's dying to know, will you be working on it at all for Sword and Shield?
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely.
You think you will?
I will definitely at least put in all the new Pokemon, put in all the new moves, put in any new mechanics, I know I haven't updated it a ton for Ultra Series. I've been behind on it, but thankfully the Wobbuffet has put in a lot of this spreads and stuff for me. So hopefully me and him can work together to keep the Sword and Shield metagame, like, at least functional on this thing.
So is this something
it'll work?
Is this something you're looking forward to or dreading?
50-50. Yeah.
50-50. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, understandable. Coding can be very frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's great that you and Leonard and everyone else who, if there is anyone else who's still on the team working on this thing, it's nice that you're all working together to put this thing together. I think probably, like, the best thing is that once there's a foundation set, like, everything can crunch the numbers properly. Everything else you can pretty much put in manually. With, like, EV spreads, even, like, move powers, that can generally be done on its own. Some of the finer nuances of the damage of just, like, the damage formula and how everything else works within the game, that might just be some of the trickier parts to it.
Yeah, and shout outs to all the people that have both filed issues and opened pull requests. So once in a blue moon, people will take it upon themselves to write some code to fix one of the issues that's on the GitHub, and that's really useful. I've had quite a few people that I've just taken code snippets from to add to this thing, because it is open source, so if you want, you can look at it, and anyone can contribute to it. So it's not entirely just me, but by far, there's so many people who have actually written things for this, and I'm really thankful for that, because I just do not have the time.
Yeah, and I'm just super thankful for just having this in general. There's something as a VGC player, I have used a great ton, almost to an extent where it's a crazy addiction sometimes. Some days when I'm trying to come up with a spread or just do something fast, I'll be like, okay, I'll just do this for 10 minutes, no problem, this will be quick, and then I end up being there for an hour or more, and it's just like, oh my god, what happened to the time?
I actually just thought of a different favorite thing. Rather than getting recognized, my actual favorite thing is April Fool's Day.
Oh, yeah. To coincide with Showdown's April Fool's Day, which they always goof around with, too.
I need to make a new one. I didn't make one for this year. It kind of slipped my mind, so I'm going to try to do one for next year.
One of my favorite things about the Showdown calculator is, and this is not just me being conceited for a joke, but also it did actually kind of mean something to me. It was cool when, after I had won Collinsville, and I'm pretty sure Jake's the one behind putting this in, my Arcanine spread, which wasn't really even my Arcanine spread, was put into the calculator. And so for the year where Arcanine was the most common Pokemon, anytime you typed in Arcanine, the first suggestion was Lexicon's Iapapa Arcanine.
I thought that was funny. I've sometimes I'll just put in someone's spread randomly, and they'll be like, "Whoa, I'm in the damage calculator," and that's pretty cool for me to see.
It's really cool to see.
People care about that.
Yeah, no, for me, I did care, because I was like, oh, that's so cool to see me in there, even though it was definitely a stolen spread. If you read my report on Trainer Tower, I did credit RP into House, I believe is the person who made the spread. But it's my name. It's my name on it. I did well with it, so I get to own it. That's
so
the role of Pokemon.
Yeah, correct. And there's so many ancient spreads in this thing. I have, no idea where they came from.
Well, one of my favorites that's just been around since the introduction of Ferrothorn. I mean, I'm talking about 2014, so a little bit after that. But Ferrothorn's standard spread has been this spread Ray Rizzo made in 2014 forever. Everybody's just run this same spread, and it's fine. It's not much beyond 252s, but it's just always been the spread for Ferrothorn. Stuff like that's just kind of fun.
A little bit of special defense, yeah.
Yeah, nice and iconic, historic. Now, Jake, really quick here. How familiar are you with the damage formula in general?
Oh God, I couldn't tell you what it is at all. I can maybe guess how it works, but if you would ask me to write it on a napkin, I would fail.
Oh, okay, no worries.
What about on a piece of paper?
I'd do a little bit better. It's a little easier to write on.
My question was, and it's okay if you don't know, we'll find someone else to give us an answer or find an answer, but I was just kind of wondering, for moves that don't have a set amount of HP that they take away or a set percentage they take away, for example, like Seismic Toss or Super Fang, every other regular damaging move always has a range when it does damage. So it does from X percent from the low end to a maximum percentage. Why is that?
Because you get it pulls two random numbers, or it has a range of random numbers that it can pull from, so a minimum and a maximum, and it rolls somewhere in between there. So I think it's 16 different numbers that it can pull, if I remember correctly, and then so yeah, you have a range, and it just seeds the random number and pulls from that.
Yep, that sounds right.
So it's I don't remember exactly how it factors into the formula, but it is a random number that's modifies one of the values, and I can't remember what it is.
While we're on the topic of formulas, it's not too relevant, but I don't know when you will get another chance to mention this on the show. And it's a good way to remember the multipliers for stat drops. for example, your Pokemon's at +1 speed or -1 speed, is to
Oh, yes. Yeah, let's talk about this.
The way that I always remember it now, after learning how it's calculated, is for your normal stats: attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. Treat it as a 2-on-2 fraction, where 2 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator. Obviously, 2-on-2 can be simplified to 1-on-1, but it's important that you keep it as a 2-on-2 right now.
Yes.
And so when you're at the base, it's just 1. However, if you increase your stat, you put a 1 on the top, you add 1 to the top, which would make it 3-on-2. You're now at 1.5. That is how hard a Pokemon hits after 1 boost. And then if you were to go down a stage, you would put 1 in the denominator, so that would become 2-on-3, or 66%. And it's important to note that drops always cancel out boosts before they go into the denominator. So, for example, if you're at +2 and you get intimidated, you will go down to 3-on-2 instead of going down to 4-on-3, I guess. But just imagine that it's a 2-on-2 fraction, and if you wanted to do the same for accuracy and evasion, it's a 3-on-3 fraction.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the game does it, I think.
Yeah, I think generally, whatever it is from the +1 through +6, the opposite direction is just the inverse.
Yeah, that's another way to remember it.
Yeah, and fractions like that are a big reason why some of these numbers are super hard to research sometimes. So, like, it's not 66%, it's 66.6 repeating percent.
Yes,
and
it is.
Sometimes it'll be the same with, like, move modifiers and stuff, so it'll be like, oh, we don't know if it's 33% or if it's 33.3%.
Exactly.
80%.
I was going to mention that for, like, Xerneas, I think.
Yeah, Xerneas was one of the big ones. So
Fariora.
Xerneas, I don't think a lot of people know this, but my calculator had Xerneas' Fariora wrong for the entire 2016 season. Fun fact.
Wow.
And no one knew until someone ended up researching it, because none of the calculators had it correct, I don't think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I think it ended up being 33.3 repeating.
This reminds me of when nobody knew the correct percentage chance of a critical hit for the majority of Sun and Moon, and this Generation 7.
Which is funny because it's actually pretty easy to research. Like you can just run like 100 tests and you can find a pretty reliable number on that. So it's funny that it went that long.
Well, the percent difference is 2%. I don't know how noticeable that would be after 100 tests.
Maybe not 100. I don't know, but
I know what you mean,
many.
though. After doing what is that called when you're testing like that? I can't remember. There's a name for it.
Like a confidence interval.
Yeah, something
maybe,
or like
maybe that, or is that a P test or is that something different I'm thinking of?
I'm talking about something simpler, like is it brute force, or just like when you're calculating numbers just by manually doing it?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but yeah.
Statistics.
It's been like a year or two since I took a stats class, dude. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, school stuff. We're
stay in school.
We at least know somewhat of our Pokemon here a little bit. But I don't know. Does anyone have any closing thoughts on the damage calculator before we sign out?
I don't think so.
All good here. I'm a happy
Okay,
camper.
very nice. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating to hear about the damage calculator, from someone who's worked very intensely on it. So, and then Jake also as well, just thank you so much for joining us for our show this week. We really appreciate you having on. We appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. I would come again.
I resend my thank you.
All right then, Alex. So, lastly, you can find us in a variety of different places. You can also leave us your feedback and questions for the show. Just tell us what you think. Leave us a question we can maybe talk about on the show here. But you can do that with our email. That is vgchypervoice@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes, as well as Google Play and Spotify. Remember, on iTunes, you can leave us a review there. Remember, that helps with visibility for others to help discover the show. And Alex, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about sharing with friends?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, so make sure to I think one of the best ways to spread information, especially in the podcast form, is to just tell your friends. If you've got a commute, just tell your friend, or you or your friend, hang out at work. Just tell them to give us a listen on the way home, for example. It's a fun way to spend time just traveling between point A and point B. And it's one of the best ways to get us known, because you're going to be, I don't know, I think it means more coming from a friend than just seeing a retweet on a timeline, for example. It's much easier to scroll past us as just some meaningless, almost like advertisement, where if your friend tells you personally to check something out, you're much more likely to check it out. So if you do tell anybody to check us out, it would mean a lot to us.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, no, I've never really been just the whole thing of getting more known, but it is always a nice feature. This is all about, doing the show, because I enjoy this a lot.
Marketing's hard, dude.
Yeah, it is.
It is very difficult, but it's okay. We'll get there. We're figuring it out, and I'm still having fun with the show, so we're good. It's all good.
Yeah.
And what's the other thing where places? Oh yeah, you can find us on Facebook at our Facebook group. You can also follow the show on Twitter at the Hypervoice, and you can also follow the three of us personally as well. You can find me and follow me at Super Morioka. And Alex, where can people follow you?
You could follow me at Lexicon VGC.
And Jake, where can people follow you?
I'm at Squirrelboy VGC, and personal shout out to my game I'm making at Backspace Boken. You want to follow that?
Yeah. So, can they find it through your Twitter, or do you want to go ahead and plug the Twitter for that?
Yeah, it's the ad is just Backspace Boken, but it's on my Twitter.
Yeah, but people might not know how to spell Boken, Jake. How do you spell?
I know.
Yeah, Jake, go ahead and spell
Bouken.
Alrighty, fantastic. So, folks, make sure you check out Jake's game. Make sure you check us all out as well. But thank you, the listener, so much for listening to our show. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll stay tuned. Stay tuned for more of the Hyper Voice. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more.
Galler.
Oh, I can't believe you said Galler. That ruins everything.
Oh, I know. I was gonna wait to say it until Sun Moon, but it's much better this way.
Okay, yeah, you do what you want to do. That's your thing.
Sword Shield.
Bye.